Parking my van at St. Paul Union Depot, I hopped Metro Transit's Route 54 bus to MSP Airport. The bus stop is at the foot of general parking, with access to the People Mover to Terminal 1 and Blue Line LRT to Terminal 2, as well as downtown Minneapolis and the Mall of America. This landside transit option between terminals at MSP runs more or less every 15 minutes, including during overnight hours. I always forget that most people fly airlines that do everything for them. Today we're going on Sun Country Airlines to Los Angeles, LAX. This part of the station has basically always been this way. This is also Minnesota's only underground rail station. It's adequate for flight connections between terminals, provided you have at least a couple hours padding between to account for lines at TSA and check-in. This trip was booked only about 5 weeks in advance, leaving on a Sunday to take Amtrak's Pacific Surfliner up the coast to San Luis Obispo and heading back to LA via Santa Maria and Santa Barbara the next day, as you can see in my Pacific Surfliner series. This is a super new car. I didn't realize we were in the 300 series. My flight home would be via United Airlines into Terminal 1, but this trip started on Sun Country, the hometown ultra-low-cost carrier of the Twin Cities. A personal favorite of mine because it's so cheap. The transit between terminals takes a few minutes on the train, and then a nearly equal time walking to Terminal 2 around the parking garages. In wintertime, this walkway can see the TSA line stretch back to the station elevators, with plenty of travelers leaving on winter vacations. MSP really needs to plan for another checkpoint in future expansion. So even the value parking for me at MSP isn't enough of a value. I had to go for $4 a day again because of road construction at Union Depot in St. Paul, and then take the 54 bus, which is still a way better deal than airport parking at MSP. Through security, no issues, and we are at a lull right now, but I think there was quite a line behind me in TSA, so if I want to get coffee, I better get it soon. LAX, San Diego, and San Francisco are all destinations for Sun Country. This will be my longest flight with them so far. We are going to be on the 737-800 for about 4 hours. Not all of that spent in the air. I was originally booked in the same row, 18, but after the Detroit flight, I decided that 4 hours packed in a 7-3 would be better spent in an exit row with just a little more space. So it is one of the few upgrades that I will pay for, is the exit row, because I like the responsibility of it. Unlike Terminal 1 with its 4 concourses, Terminal 2 is one long rectangle with various taverns, a couple coffee shops, and various potentially working vending machines. Lately, there always seems to be lines for water fountains. MSP might be seeing this simple terminal starting to max out with crowds for flights aboard ultra-low-cost carriers flying out of here. Sun Country mostly operates flights to and from Minnesota, but they have some charter operations as well as an oddball 20-minute flight to Eau Claire, Wisconsin I'm interested in taking, being that my in-laws live within walking distance of the airport. Comment below if you've taken any Sun Country flights. I've always considered them to be as comfortable as Southwest Airlines, but with the fare structure of Spirit or Frontier, another 2 airlines you can catch out of Terminal 2 at MSP. Sun Country was born out of the ashes of Braniff Airlines in the 1980s. They're now a tourist airline, also serving as a travel agent for wanderers stuck in the middle of North America. They operate a single class of seating aboard a fleet of second-hand Boeing 737 aircraft. Their basic fare affords you a personal item and free liquid refreshment. Carry-ons or checked luggage will cost extra along with solid food snack items purchased on board. There are two varieties of liveries of aircraft and two vintages of basic but well-padded seats with cabins bearing the languages of their former operators on placards throughout. It's always interesting to see from which corner of the world you'll be flying to or from Minnesota aboard aircraft on this dutiful but cheap airline. We board in the final group and make our way past those already seated that had paid for access to overhead bins, but my fully loaded backpack has no problem fitting under the seats, especially with the 38 plus inches of pitch between seats in the exit row over the wing. It's an average seat that doesn't recline due to being in an exit row, but I'll be spending most of the flight looking out the window, so I'll be using the USB-A charging points under the seat for keeping my camera and phone ready for the afternoon ahead, taking transit from LAX to downtown Los Angeles for the continuation of my trip. I could have flown to SLO aboard Alaskan, American, or United via Seattle, Dallas, or Denver respectively. But with those flights all well over $300, and this Sun Country flight being about $140 with the exit row upgrade, and the forthcoming Amtrak Pacific Surfliner business class seat adding only $75, this basic flight and coastal running train with its beautiful sights to come was an easy choice for me, despite taking over 15 hours total travel time to the roughly 6 hours it takes to fly to SLO with connections from MSP. This is a basic Boeing cabin, but it's tremendously comfortable in the exit row, and I was surprised to not have anyone sitting next to me for the roughly 4 hours it would take from doors closed at MSP to the jetway at LAX, where the Tom Bradley International Terminal would be our point of entry for this, my first time in Southern California and the massive LAX airport on a busy Sunday midday arrival. Wi-Fi aboard the flight was working today, with device streaming providing a basic set of entertainment options for those that don't get their kicks watching terrestrial features pass by below the aircraft. Though we would fly through some weather coming off the Rockies, most of the flight was smooth, with great views of the landscape below. But if you need something, they do have TV, movies, music, and a limited amount of basic games on your phone. Cruising over Colorado at 36,000 feet, we overfly foothills before carrying over mountain passes. I'm really keen to travel this landscape aboard Amtrak's California Zephyr, but time and money concerns keep delaying my potential cross-country trip aboard Amtrak's flagship long-distance train. I don't mind the convenience this flight provides to get me to LA in time for a great train ride up the coast, but I'm hopeful that I'll get to set aside a few extra days to make the multi-day train trip and see how folks live in the mountains below from the comfort of a roomette or at least a big superliner coach someday soon. I brought some snacks with me in my bag, but the Coke Zero was free on the single food and drink service on this flight. In a future flight review from MSP to Philly, we'll check out Sun Country's reasonable snack box available for purchase on most of their longer flights. Sun Country offers friendly service akin to most of the big full-service airlines, and if you pack light, you can avoid charges for bags up to and beyond $50 apiece. If you buy into the front row seats, which were only about $10 above the cost of the exit row, you'll get free access to the overhead bins devoted to the bulkhead row up front. In wintertime, Sun Country mostly flies to warmer destinations out of MSP, but the rest of the year there are flights to destinations all across America, including Dallas, Cincinnati, and Washington Dulles, as well as BWI, that I'll be featuring in future flight reviews. I try to use Sun Country as a springboard across the country before or after travel by train, but in the case of my return trip tomorrow, I jumped at the chance to take a red-eye aboard United's Boeing 777 aircraft to get home via Chicago O'Hare, a choice that you can see the results of in another video on my channel. Our route west today takes us over Las Vegas and Death Valley before turning towards Los Angeles. I'm also interested in making another trip back to LA this year to see how the landscape and people have changed since the fires in the mountains north of town occurred earlier this year. LA is really dependent on its tourism industry, and I'd like to get a look for myself at what's changed. It seems like I could make this same trip to SLO to utilize the lodging north of LA that hasn't been taken up with folks needing housing after the fires, but a trip south to San Diego might require some alternative accommodations, since the supply of lodging that far south of LA has reportedly dwindled or at least seen higher rates since the time of this video. In any case, the descent through the cloud base today finds us flying into LA for an overcast Sunday, but one that will see sunshine peeking through for some glimpses at the great variety of aircraft on the tarmac below. The plane spotting here and what I would see 2 weeks later at Washington Dulles were some of the highlights of my travel year.
On behalf of Sun Country Airlines and your entire flight crew, we'd like to welcome you to Los Angeles, where the local time is approximately 10:30. And federal regulations require you remain seated with your seatbelt securely fastened. Today, we appreciate your business. Thank you for traveling with us, and we hope to see you again on a future Sun Country flight. Have a great day.
We taxi to the west gates of the Tom Bradley International Terminal at LAX. Opened in 2021, this is the newest addition to the sprawling complex of operations at this, the busiest airport in the world as a destination for flights to all corners of the globe. This terminal sure looks that part today as I navigate the lengthy passage from the satellite concourse to landside. We're at LAX. We gotta walk to the bus stop, far east end of the airport. I don't want the shuttle bus to Terminal 1 for bags. I want ground transportation.
Basement.
This way. Now we're in the basement, going around customs, following the signs for ground transport. Okay, intuition is paying off. We have found ground transportation. Now we'll see how long the sidewalk lasts. Basically, we're trying to take the 118 bus over to the A-Line light rail. You see, there is one bus called the Flyaway bus that's express service from LAX to Union Station, but it's $9 or something like that. An LA Metro bus is $2. There's the thing in the middle we'll probably see on the way back tomorrow. Southwest rules Terminal 1. Sun Country flies in to the international terminal. Because Sun Country is fun. And we have broken free of the terminal canopy. And we wait. No, we don't. This is where you get your Uber or your Lyft or your taxi. You know, other expensive things that hold fewer people than buses. And after a while, World becomes, well, I think it's still World, but it meets Sepulveda. And this is where the bus stop is. Beyond the tropical foliage, or the Mediterranean foliage, whatever you call it. We are almost out of LAX. It only took 15 minutes. The bus stop for LA Metro buses is a lengthy jaunt away from the west gates, but the way ahead features adequate sidewalk access from any terminal, provided you've got the fortitude to make it to the underpass at the edge of airport property. Did I say 117? Yeah, I'm at 117. Here we are. Let's plug it into Google, figure it out. That dork up there, the expensive dork, the direct dork. Yeah, it wants me to take a 117 to an 81, but I'm just gonna go to the train. That's easier. Saving the $7 the Flyaway bus would have cost ended up being a more pleasant experience than the abstract description of taking an LA City bus to the A-Line LRT might suggest to a Midwesterner on their first time in Southern California. But that was more the norm for me as I continued on aboard Amtrak, eventually spending the next morning in Santa Maria aboard their fleet of Gillig buses and new electric microtransit vehicles. Watch those videos or the red-eye flight review, and be sure to subscribe if the idea of high fanfare, low on features trips interests you. Thanks for watching today. I'll see you on the next one.